Okay, before anything else gets done, let's address some personal news that I'm sure you've all heard about by now. Yes, the rumours are true, the reports you've read online are true. I do have a voice acting role in Oddworld Soulstorm, the recently announced game from Oddworld Inhabitants. It's a great joy for me to be able to say that as someone who grew up with the Oddworld games and considers them very important to my formative years as an enjoyer, a connoisseur of the art of interactive entertainment. So I'm incredibly pleased with that, and that is some wonderful news that certainly wasn't overshadowed by any other news this week. So let's focus on that. The important news, the only news about me this week worth paying attention to. Nintendo had some Star Fox Zero news this past week, and let's just say that the world of real hardcore gamers was in an uproar. The latest scoop is that the newest Star Fox will feature an optional Invincible mode designed for inexperienced players, allowing literal babies to be able to play and enjoy the game with a Star Fox Zero risk of death. Star Fox Zero risk. The reaction? Disgust and anger in equal measure. "I hate games," wrote one lamenting responder. "I hate how Nintendo has a toddler option on all their newer games. Something like SFZ will only be bought by hardcore fans." "Lol, what?" decried another. "That's kind of pathetic. Why play a game you can't lose?" "For some reason, this makes me sad. If you can't lose, what's the point? What sense of accomplishment can you feel?" One commenter stated, "I don't know why games should be made that autoplay themselves. What's the point? Are people really that incapable of any sort of difficulty? So what if a player struggles? It's the only way they'll get good." The news has been called embarrassing, criticised as a wimp mode or don't even try mode, hand-holding for babies, and a slew of other things that I'm too much of a gentleman to repeat. People are furious at this, as they were furious at the idea of recent Mario games introducing invincible Tanuki suits after a certain amount of deaths, as they were furious when Ocarina of Time 3D was dumbed down. The idea of games featuring optional easier modes somehow triggers an instinctive lashing out among the more zealous of the hardcore gamer set, and for as many times as I've witnessed the frothing fury, I've never gotten a step closer toward properly understanding it. What exactly is so harmful about a completely optional mode that you never have to experience? I mean, we've had this discussion before with same-sex romance options in RPGs, and it's no less inane here. I mean, it shouldn't affect your enjoyment of the game, knowing that I'm somewhere out there sitting in the corner of my room looking at Iron Bull and just pounding it, you know? Pounding it. Pounding it. Pounding it. Pounding it! What is so horrific about this idea that something exists in a game for somebody who isn't you? How selfish do you have to be to demand that a game caters to your desires and only to your desires, excluding anybody else? Is that the only way you can enjoy a game, if you're the only fucker who can enjoy it? So literal babies can play Star Fox Zero now. So the fuck what? Nobody's saying you're a baby, though I guess they could if you're whining about an optional feature in a video game, but seriously, it's not a commentary on your precious skills as a hardcore gamer that somebody can play the same game as you on an easier setting. It seems utterly loopy to me that you'd enjoy Star Fox Zero less if someone who isn't you doesn't get to die in it. You know who else couldn't have fun unless someone else died? Ted Bundy. I'm not saying you're Ted Bundy, but, well, if the false arm sling fits. The invincibility mode is a fine idea as far as I'm concerned. The more difficulty settings, from near insta-death unfair super hard modes right down to the never die eternal life modes, the better as far as I'm concerned. Customization, options, things to toggle on and off. These are part of what makes games fun, isn't it? Tailoring your experience? It's why mods are so popular, right? I mean, do you get pissy about your vanilla version of Fallout because someone else is playing against Randy Savage Deathclaws? You'd sound like an idiot protesting that. It's no different here. You don't have to play Star Fox Zero with an invincible ship. It won't be forced on you, it's not even default, and nobody's ever made you pick up that invulnerable Tanuki suit, even though we all know you've done it at least once. It's irrelevant if it's an option. Literally should not fucking matter to you. And yet it does. Why? Exclusion. That's all I can think of. It's the only reason I can come up with. People mad at optional difficulty settings are wanting exclusion, and we can see that in some of the malice tinging the comments. They put a baby mode in many of their games for people who suck. Get your warm bottles of milk ready. The babies are gonna need some pacifiers too. These people despise anybody who isn't hardcore like them, and seem loath to share their space with them. All this mode is doing is opening Star Fox Zero to potential new crowds. Casual gamers, young children, people with disabilities, and if you think that's a bad thing, like some of these comments seem to suggest, you're behaving like an elitist spoiled shit who is mad that you have to share your toys, which seems to be a running fucking theme among certain gamer crowds these days. Something like SFZ will only be bought by hardcore fans is part of that tweet I quoted at the top of this episode, and it speaks entirely to the myopic nature of this excluding sentiment. Because the invincibility mode, it's an answer to the idea that only hardcore fans would buy it. Now there's a chance other people will get into it too, and they'll have a chance to enjoy the game in a way that facilitates their progress and potentially get turned into new hardcore Star Fox fans. And that's a good thing. The more people playing and buying games is a good thing. Diverse audiences and a responding diversity of games to choose from is a good thing. A world of options and different flavours shouldn't be scary, and yet it is to some people, and that's just sad. Nobody's making you have hot gay sex in Dragon Age. Nobody's making you play Gone Home. Nobody's making you use an invincibility mode. You get to play any game you want in a way that makes you happy. Why the fuck aim to deprive others of the same? Probably because you're a prick. Sorry, but that's the blunt, short answer, mate. You're being a prick. And now I'm going to say something that'll really cheese some people's onions. Last time I said it, people got incredibly pissed off at me, but I still believe it, so here it goes. Come closer, come closer. I am fine with the idea of Dark Souls having an easy mode. Now look, I'd never use the easy mode. I love Dark Souls just the way it is, and I think easy mode players would need their own servers, or just not have full online functionality at all. But I'm not pissed at the suggestion of it. However, a few years back when series director Hidetaka Miyazaki said he was considering an easy mode, Dark Souls' notoriously impassioned fanbase was about ready to riot, and my suggestion soon after that, hey, maybe making Dark Souls accessible to new players and giving them a chance to become new fans wasn't the end of the world, remains one of the most bizarrely controversial and contrarian statements I've ever made. The counter-arguments were that it would ruin the game and undo the point of it, which, again, isn't the problem for anybody playing it on the regular mode. It's not your problem. It's not a problem. Your biggest problem is that someone who isn't as good as you at a game would enjoy the game. And if you're a fan of something, shouldn't you want as many people to enjoy it as possible to get that chance to upgrade themselves and become bigger fans? Actually, don't answer that. We all know how fandom can get about that sort of thing. I just wonder if you apply this shit to other areas of your life. Can you not stand to go bowling because sometimes there are kids using those gutter guards? Are you done with watching Stanley Kubrick films because there are detailed synopses explaining plot details for those who didn't get it? How about reading? You know you can get annotated versions of books teaching the less well-read various underlying themes of the narrative. Did you know that? How does that make you feel? That you worked out the themes all on your own and someone else can just be told them? I don't know, maybe this would be different if you learned one simple thing. It's one simple lesson and it might help you get through this thing we call life, okay? Here it is. Nobody gives a shit how better you are at video games than a literal baby. I've been meaning to thank someone for this for a long time, but unfortunately I could not find the letter that came with it, and I feel terrible about that because it was a really nice letter. But yeah, someone made this. Someone who I call them the tentacled gentleman. He's very lovely, got a big old teeth there, got a hat, got a monocle there, got tentacles. It's wonderful. It's one of my favourite things ever, like that arrived at my P.O. box. And yeah, thank you for sending me that. Now, you called it by another name, a name I can't repeat because it was pretty offensive, but if you want to send me an email or something and you can prove it was you by giving me that name, then I can give you proper thanks for it. But yeah, Tentacled Gentleman, let's sit there for a minute. There we are, perfect. Yeah, so thank you for that, thank God for me, and seriously, regarding any other news that you may have heard about, thank you all for your support and offers of help, because I don't need it, but thanks.